Welcome to Parenthood Bites, the podcast where we explore life as a parent in tech. I'm your host, Chow, and I have over 15 years of experience in tech, and I'm also currently working as a career coach. I'm the proud mother of 3 incredible boys. In each episode, we have an inspiring guest who will share their remarkable story. You'll find their wisdom and insights both relatable and enriching, because after all, we're all in this parenting journey together. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 29 of Parenthood Bites. We're here today with Can Envarli, who is the VP of Engineering at Liquidity Book and currently resides in Washington. Hi Can, how are you?
Hi, Chow. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's getting warmer here. Is it warmer over there?
Yeah, we had a great 5 day stretch where we had 65 to 75 degree temperatures, which was really nice. And then I went skiing on Sunday, so skiing in the morning and then being in mid 70s by the afternoon with a 90-minute drive was kind of cool. But now it's back to being really, I don't know if you can see behind me, but yeah, it's super overcast, kind of raining, back to being its typical Seattle weather.
It changes a lot, huh?
Yeah, it does.
Are your kids almost on spring break?
Yeah, we have, I think, 2 weeks left before spring break. Yeah, they're looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Are you taking that time off?
Yeah, we'll go on a family trip. Yeah, somewhere warmer. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. My kids have not next week, but the week after, the first week of April, they're off. So we're gonna go to Disneyland, which is also somewhere warmer. Because LA is a lot warmer than here.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know if they're more excited or if I'm more excited. But as long as they're still willing to go, I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, that's true.
So how many kids do you have and what are their ages?
I have 2 kids. We have twins, boy and a girl, Mavi and Emre, and they are 10 and a half. So they were born in 2013.
Cool. I didn't know you had twins. How is that?
Yeah, just like Anna, right? I know you chatted with her recently too. Once they get past a certain kind of age, it's really great because they always have each other as a friend. But then I would say, especially the first 6 months was kind of a blur. I don't really remember sleeping much because the challenge was, they'd sleep in these 2 to 3 hour, cycles and then be up for an hour, right? And then you would try to get them sleeping on the same schedule, but one takes an hour extra to fall asleep, then now they're staggered, so there's always a kid up throughout the entire night. So that was rough.
You said after a certain age, it gets better. What age was that for you?
I think for me it was gradual between, I guess, ages between the ages of like 3 to 7. It just like they ended up being more and more really kind of friends with each other, playing with each other, that kind of thing. So that's when I really started like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool.
Before that, just get through day by day, right?
Yeah, you're kind of more in survival mode, I guess. Yeah, like making sure they're alive, they're fed, that they're surviving. Because for me, also, I noticed that their self-preservation instincts don't really kick in till they're like 2.5 to 3, and so then you're just like making sure they're not destroying themselves.
Yeah.
And then there comes a period where they're just starting to pull each other's hairs and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess the challenges change.
Yeah, and then you have 2 of the same age, so they're probably both running in different directions.
Yeah, though I've also observed other friends who have their, let's say, kids 2 years apart, and then that's a different kind of challenge. They're in different modes, and so then and they're both challenging modes. Having to deal with that concurrently also is a challenge of its own.
Yeah, for sure. So, what brought you to tech, and how many years were you in tech before you became a
What
parent?
brought me to tech? Yeah, I thought about this a little bit. I think I've been interested in computers since my childhood, to be honest. I was lucky enough where my dad, and I grew up in Turkey, my dad was working for IBM, and he happened to bring home a computer as a kind of a proof of concept computer from work that I had the privilege of like playing around with. And by the way, so this was a 8088 built in 1983, I think. Compared to today's standards, super slow. But it was supposedly a portable computer that was probably 40, 50 pounds, but it had a handle on it so you could carry it. But yeah, so I was interested in kind of like playing around with that and just trying to understand like how an operating system works. Or I liked playing games, obviously, just like any other kid, just kind of curious how games work, all that. And back then, as I was growing up, there wasn't necessarily as much material for kind of teaching yourself like how programming works, because no one in my family was, my dad was working for IBM, but he was more in sales, so he wasn't a technical person by any means. So I was kind of on my own trying to figure things out. There wasn't really internet. But anyway, yeah, so I was always interested in that. So then when college came, for me, studying computer science was just a no-brainer. That's exactly what I wanted. And then I got into the world of software engineering through that. We had kids, I guess, about 6 years into my software engineering career after grad school.
Nice. I remember when my dad brought home a computer too. We put it on the kitchen table and everyone was, me and my brother were looking at it. And I think the first game I played was solitaire. And I
Nice.
learned how to change the deck design, I was
Oh,
so
yeah.
happy. So when
Yeah.
I played, it was a certain design. When my brother played, it was different. That was our first time with an actual computer at home. And we were so excited. So I know the feeling of that.
Yeah, yeah. Very different from these days, right? When there's, iPads and now ChatGPT, and yeah, you can pretty much do anything, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, the portable computer was like 60, 70 pounds. Now a portable computer is like less than 10 pounds.
Yeah.
So, what was the parental leave like at your work when you had your
Yeah, I
twins?
was working for Microsoft at the time, and for men, there was a 1 month parental leave policy. What frustrated me really was that it didn't matter that I had twins; it was still just 1 month.
Yeah, that's what I always ask people. I'm like, did it
Yeah,
double? No.
but at least there was something. It was better than nothing at the time. This was in 2013. So what I tried to do was, we had the kids there in October, and I had saved up a bunch of vacation till then. So I did the 1 month leave, and then all my vacation, and then the holidays kind of came up. So I was able to at least kind of turn it more into a 2.5 month kind of ordeal. After the holidays, basically, I went back to work.
That's nice because most people are off on the holidays and it's also slower, right? So
Right,
when you went
right.
back to work, was a transition easier going back to work?
Yeah, it was, because they were just still, 2 or 3 months old. They were not really sleeping still. So I was just terrified about how am I going to literally mentally function at work while I'm more or less like not sleeping. And something, I guess, magical happened where all of a sudden they started sleeping in 4 or 5 hour chunks. So then I could, get a like 4 or 5 hours of uninterrupted sleep, which really helped. And also at the time, my wife, she was working for the Gates Foundation, which had one of the most generous policies at the time. And I think it was, 6 months. So then she didn't have to go back to work immediately. So she had a bit more time.
Yeah, that's very generous. 6 months. That's a very good leave.
And then later it became a year.
Wow. That's really awesome. So, was there a mother's room at your work, if you recall?
I don't recall, but I don't think there was one.
And what did you do for childcare?
We did a kind of a mix of things. So, we got through our parental leaves and all that. And then we ended up hiring a nanny, just because it actually, in our case, again, because of twins, I guess, it was cheaper to hire a full-time nanny than put 2 kids in daycare. So we had a nanny. And for a long time, yeah, we had a nanny until they pretty much reached school age, I would say.
So, what about now, like in school? What about after school? Do they go to after school care?
We pick them up from school and they come home. And yeah, my wife currently is kind of has her own business doing consulting kind of work. So she's able to kind of control her hours. So she's able to essentially be the guardian when they're not in school, right?
That's great. We used to send our kids to after school and they didn't like it because they made them do homework. And even when they didn't have homework, they made them do like packets of like math
I see.
problems and different stuff. And so when we were
Yeah.
able to pick them up, they were like, yes, please pick us up every day. And what is your day to day routine like with your kids now?
In the morning, getting them out of bed, and then getting them fed, making sure they're moving quickly on, getting ready for school, getting dressed, brushing their hair, brushing their teeth, that kind of thing. Well, actually, my daughter will kill me if I don't mention, she's usually the first one to get up of, all four of us in the family. And then, she will sometimes take our dog out too. And then sometimes even, prepare breakfast. I
Wow.
think she's exaggerating a little bit, but yes, like she sometimes does those things. Maybe she thinks she does it 70% of the time, but maybe she's doing maybe 10% of the time. But yeah, she does that. So anyway, going back to the morning routine, and then my wife will drop them off at school. So that's around 8:30. I guess we need to get them to school by 8:30, so we leave here 8:20. Their school ends at 3:10. We'll pick them up from school around then. On Wednesdays, my daughter has horseback riding. So one of us will take her there, be there kind of while she's doing that. And actually, that's one of the easier things to do as a parent, because we once we're there, like while we're waiting, I can continue to do my work, or my wife the same thing. But sometimes I also like to actually watch the lesson depending on my workload. The rest of the routine, like after school, depends on the day and also the time of the year. We try to have our kids involved in different kinds of like team sports, etc. activities, and so there might be like a soccer practice or basketball practice, baseball practice, in addition to the horseback riding. Those are the things we've had them doing. Something I've really been enjoying the last year and a half is actually getting to coach their teams. So I coached this winter for about 3-4 months. I coached both my sons and my daughter's basketball teams, and before that, I was coaching my son's soccer team too. So yeah, that's been really fun. But then so that's part of the weekly routine too. In the evenings, getting involved, running practice and whatnot, or taking them to practice if it's a different sport. Yeah, getting dinner ready, cleaning up, maybe going on a family walk, and then around 7:30, 8, starting to trying to get them to wind down and get ready for sleep, and then maybe go back to work. If there's like stuff that's kind of still burning that needs to be dealt with, or if not, then maybe my wife and I will watch something together. These days we're into watching the show on Apple TV, The Morning Show.
It's a good show.
So that's what a typical, I guess, weekday looks like. Just kind of going back and forth between work-related things and childcare-related things.
Yeah, the activities and school and stuff. And it's really cool that you're able to coach their sports teams. They must really like that.
Yeah. And then I want to go back to, the question you asked, like what was going back to work like after kind of having kids? I touched upon mostly the first transition back, but then there was, I think, in the longer, on the horizon, longer term, there was a huge change, right? What the big change was that I felt like before that I could, catch up on whatever I need to do for work, like to get things done eventually, like stay excellent, etc. But once you have kids, times are more set and there's a lot more juggling that you might end up having to do. And then you realize like how much free time you had before having kids. So that was a very, very, very permanent change that you just don't realize till you have kids.
Yeah. The amount of time you have to do other things is very limited.
That was like the biggest change, I would say. Yeah. And constantly feeling like you're not doing enough with, like, you're not doing enough for your work, or you're not doing enough as a spouse, or you're not doing enough as a parent, or also now your parents are getting older, you're not doing enough as a child. Are you calling your parents enough? Are you doing enough as a friend? Are you keeping in touch with your friends? So that constant feeling of, are you doing enough all across your life? That was the big change.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way, myself included. A lot of people mention that too. You feel like you're not doing enough anywhere because you're doing so many things too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, what has been your biggest struggle or challenge being a parent in tech?
Adjusting to that guilt, almost. Sometimes like I'm sorry, I just have to either. I guess guilt in both directions. Like sometimes it's the weekend or it's the evening, but there's something I have to deal with, and then it feels like I care about my work more than my family. Having that feeling, or making maybe my family feel that way, and vice versa when there's something happening at work, you see a bunch of people jumping on an issue and whatnot, but drawing boundaries, I want to be with my family. It's kind of like I need to be with my family. I need to kind of like put that time in. Feeling that guilt that way too, like I'm not pulling my weight at work. Like I think that's been a big struggle. But frankly, being in tech versus maybe another kind of job, I would say there's a ton of benefits and privileges versus other jobs, right? Especially for me, and this got accelerated with COVID, the ability to kind of be anywhere and still be productive, and not having to, in certain situations, not having to spend time on a commute, because that's, again, if you're being very, very particular with like how you spend your time, commute could be considered a complete waste of time, right? So I think there's lots of privileges like that too, or being able to sometimes certain things just you're able to do it on your phone even without having to get on a laptop. So I think there are a lot of benefits like that too. Accessibility, in terms of being productive as an employee.
Yeah, definitely, especially now being remote in a lot of places, or having the option to be hybrid. Then, like you said, you don't have to be on that commute.
Right. Either the commute, or there will be cases where, let's say, we have 2 kids and one of them has to go somewhere, and they say my wife, she's actually not working at that time, right? Like in terms of a job. And so she's taking one of the kids somewhere, and I'm home working from home. our other kids here, we don't need someone to like come watch the kid. The kid is, self-sufficient. So again, that, if I had to be a barista, I can't do that. So that's again a huge benefit, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Just being able to be there.
Yeah.
So, what are some things you struggle at your kids' current ages of 10?
Good question. I think maybe when they're struggling with something on a kind of emotional level, like learning more and more that they're their independent selves, being able to sometimes like resist the urge to just problem solve for them, or even to draw those boundaries like for their benefit more than anyone, that not internalizing like the emotions that they're going through, to feel it very viscerally and to try to solve it for them because I'm feeling bad for them, right? So I think that's more of a becoming more and more of a challenge now. And then also they're becoming more autonomous, so they need more independence, but then sometimes there are certain things that just have to be right done, or we want them. So we're finding that line, like, okay, here's where we should indeed respect their independence, or here's we still have house rules. I think those are the things that are feeling more and more challenging these days. And then again, what path are they going to go? Like, there's things I would love for them to be interested in, but maybe they're not interested in those. I think that's another big one.
Yeah, that's true. Especially at the age of 10 is when they start getting that independence, right? They
Right.
have their own opinions, they want to do things. And then are they going to middle school next year?
No, they're going to be fifth grade. Yeah, still. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
fifth grade.
Yeah.
So not quite yet, but then they're going to start just wanting their alone time, time with their friends. That was a big struggle for me. I'm like, don't you want to talk to me?
Oh, I actually, that's a struggle with my daughter for already now. Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, she wants to do her own thing sometimes, right? And yeah, no, I want to hang out with you. Yeah, it's amazing how quickly things flip from dad, mom, I need your attention all the time to yeah, I want the opposite of your attention.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to
Yeah.
be on their own.
And another thing is, I think with their, again, maybe in terms of their independence, or again letting them figure out for themselves. Say they have some homework or some project, and actually we like to get a little bit involved just to see what kind of work they're doing. But sometimes we do need to be involved, like it's a major project. But then how much should we be the gatekeeper, or how much should we be the, like, yes, this looks good enough to submit, versus no, you need to do more work on it, like being that
Yeah.
bad guy, no, this is not ready enough yet, versus letting them find out through a bad grade or whatever, when they can give it 100%, but that they're giving it 65% because they're just for whatever reason not motivated. That's where do you, again, it's a judgment call, right? And like, what's the right call? I don't know. I guess we're kind of figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, definitely figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like when my kids were small, they had what was called family homework. And so we did it with them. And sometimes I'm like, oh, let me make that perfect. But then it's like, no, this is a 6-year-old's homework. It doesn't have to be perfect. But then I look at other parents and I'm like, oh, that parent really did that entire project for the kid, And I realized like my kid actually doesn't want me to do it all for him. He likes the mediocre label, because that's his creativity, even though to me as an adult it's mediocre. It's not to him. He likes it.
Right.
So then I realized, oh, okay, let it be. If he wants me to help, I'll help. If he wants me to leave it alone, just leave it alone.
Well, that's awesome. I wish my son did that more too. It's for us, it's more like, no, he needs to be sometimes just get on it and actually do it, and so we need to keep pushing him. But yeah, in terms of how complicated these projects get, it's crazy. They just did a biography project, and so they each had to pick a famous person, and then write in a very structured way. They had to write 5 index cards, like read a biography book about this person, but then make these like 5 index cards to answer specific questions, like why was this person so noteworthy, that kind of thing. Now that's all great, but there was also an artsy part of this project where they had to do a bottle person. So they would each get like a 2-liter Coke bottle, and then you had to get this kind of giant ball from an arts and crafts store, and then essentially build a person. And I feel like parents were heavily involved in that. And I'm sure as the deadline got close, every household had its own version of the drama. Like, no, I don't think, no, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. I don't remember having to do a project like that when I was in fourth grade, frankly. So I feel like there's expectations in terms of like getting parents involved in this kind of schoolwork is going up over time.
Yeah, I remember doing that with my kids. And that ball for the head, right? I was like, should we color it? Should we just leave it uncolored and just draw the eyes? But we couldn't get a marker to stay on there. It was drama.
Yeah, we were searching for YouTube videos on how to make a good nose shape out of clay,
Yeah.
or and then so my son was doing Gandhi, and so we wanted to do a good mustache, and then we found a black one at the arts and crafts store, but that didn't work. So then we actually built a with from white strings, like we built a mustache out of individual I guess like strands of hair. Essentially it worked out pretty well, actually. Yeah, but again, it's very involved.
Yeah, you can't have a kid figure all of that out on their own.
No.
You need parents'
Yeah.
help for sure.
Yeah.
So, of course, this is something we're working on, but what do you do to achieve work life balance?
A bunch of things, I guess. One is really setting up my devices in a way where I can actually unplug. A couple of things I do. For instance, I on my cell phone, I turn off all the badging for anything that's like Slack, Outlook, etc. And I intentionally put them on my second screen, not my first screen. So if I unlock my phone, I just don't see like there's stuff related to kind of like work I need to look at. So that's one thing. And then I think for me, making sure I make some time to exercise makes a huge difference in terms of my overall kind of mood, how I show up, happiness, and all that. And then the other thing is like really being able to leave work at work. I mean, it's hard to say that like in a physical sense where you're in the same house, you're just kind of like going to a different room. But actually, like we're lucky enough where I have a dedicated room for like work, and so I don't really go in there unless I'm going to work, which really helps. But also, I think on a mentally, like, and this is something I'm working on. I have lots of improvement to show still, but being able to mentally pack work away, saying I'm done with it, I'm not going to kind of like worry about it. One of the things I've been working on is actually imagining, like visually imagining me opening a bag and putting my work in there, putting there, saying it's safe, like, because a lot of times it's going to be like, well, I don't know how to do this, or I don't want to forget about this. But if you say, yeah, it's safe, like it will be there in the morning, like when you go back to work, that really helps with really creating that separation. Because one of the things I've been struggling with, especially in the last few years, like especially when I was at Twitter, is being present in the moment. So I'd be done with work physically, but I'd be sitting at a dinner table, but I'm people are talking to me, but I'm kind of like a zombie, like they're probably still thinking about like work. So that's something I've really been working on not doing anymore, really kind of like paying attention. And we have a routine now at our dinner table, which really helps me. Said, okay, now I really want to like know what each person did. So we go around the room and we speak about our highs and lows for the day, what went well, what didn't go well. And then also we had recently added a new section about like grateful, like what are you grateful for, kind of thing. So that's been kind of a nice little routine to create that, help with my separation from kind of work for the rest of the evening.
That's cool because then you can also hear about your kids' day and hear about what went well for
Right,
them.
right, exactly. And we usually start with the kids going first. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then you can dig into it and learn more from
right.
them.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
really neat. It's like a mini stand up at
It
home.
kind of is, yeah. End of day. It's more like I guess a retro in that
Yeah,
sense. Yeah,
mini
yeah,
retro.
daily retro. Yeah, yeah.
So, what are some things that help you relax or unwind?
Watching TV for sure. I've been a big fan of like post-apocalypse, kind of like or themed, TV series and movies and all that. I guess like the thing about like watching something is it's a whole other universe. You're detaching from kind of like your actual universe, your actual life. So to me, that's one way to, because I need to like unwind my like brain, like rewind my brain down. Otherwise, like for instance, if I ended up going back to work after the kids went to sleep, and then okay, I'm done. I really just can't go to sleep. If I go upstairs to
Yeah.
my bed like that, I will not fall asleep. So that's my way of kind of winding down. I'm really grateful that with now all the kids like sports stuff and getting really involved. To me, that's actually just fun. Like whether it's going to the baseball game or running a practice for them. And then in the last year or so, I made some Turkish friends. So like once a month or once every couple of weeks, like we'll have a poker night. So that's a new routine, which is, kind of fun. So it's the little things, I guess.
Yeah, just different things to take your mind off of work.
Right. I feel like I need some of these activities to get out of the house because now I'm primarily remote. Our headquarters are in New York, so we don't have an office here. And so if I never leave the house, then I start losing my mind, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, the last question I like to ask is what's something you would tell someone who's planning to have kids or something you wish you knew before you became a parent?
Yeah, I would say I feel very strongly about this and I would give this advice to myself too. You feel like you're in survival mode, right? But finding a way to teach yourself to live in the moment, because really otherwise, like kind of years are going by and the kids go through a bunch of stages and then they will never go back to that stage, right? Like being, it's easy to say, I know, and it feels hellish, like sometimes when you're going through these really tough times, but really being present and not thinking about your work and or not looking at your time as like, oh, I'm just trying to get through this activity, but versus, oh, like what is there to like enjoy about this activity, like just being in that observant appreciative mode. That's by far the most important quote unquote advice I would give to anyone that's in the earlier stages of being a parent or considering becoming a parent.
Yeah, because those moments can seem tough, but then they go
They
by really
do.
quickly and
Right. Yeah.
just be appreciative, enjoy the moment.
Yeah, I mean, so this is going to potentially sound gross and hopefully funny at the same time, but you won't know, like when you're changing your kids' diapers for the last time, you won't
Yeah,
know that it's the last time. But there was a last time you changed their diapers, right? Like you're not
yeah,
gonna do that again.
that's true. I think back and I'm like, I got really good at changing their diapers, but now I don't know.
Yeah, I think I was really struggle. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but we were able to like swaddle them really easily or put their diapers on, right? And then that
yeah.
all that time passed so quickly.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have any other part. I think that's by far the most important one. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else that's to me as important. Oh, and then actually, yeah, the other thing is like don't feel bad about the way you feel. If you're feeling angry, I think there's a difference between your reactions and your responses. So what matters is like you should definitely control your responses, but you should, I think people feel, oh, like I'm really annoyed or I'm really mad at my kid. I've heard people say things like my kid's an A hole, right? Like it's okay to feel a certain way. Like it's hard. It's hard being a parent. So yeah, give yourself grace for how you feel. Like it's separate from what you actually do.
Yeah, that's really important because a lot of times it can be very frustrating. But then we still love our children, and that's the truth.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Those can be true at the same time. You can be really mad at someone and still love them very much. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, John, for talking to us today and sharing your experiences. It was really fun talking to you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it too.
Of course. Thank you. Take care.
You too.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Parenthood Bites. We hope you found our episode informative and entertaining. If you're a parent in the tech world or know someone who is, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us at chow@parenthoodbites.co, and we'll be thrilled to add your experiences to our interviews. That's chow, CHIAO, @parenthoodbites.co. And to our potential sponsors out there, if you're a business or know of one that would like to support and partner with our podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also reach us at chow@parenthoodbites.co. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Until next time, take care and stay curious.